every Christmas, there seemed to be a tradition of racing lobsters on the floor. Back in those days, no one knew of the risk outside of the trader actually taking on the risk. As a human being, though, to get berated all day long, it weighs on you. But I'm sure I've cried in the washroom stall a couple times.
Today we're going to sit down and talk to John about what it was like to be on the floor trading in the absolute heyday of trading culture. Let's check it out. Today we're going to talk about some trading stories. And we used to work together.
We did?
We did. And then we also worked...
How many years ago now?
Oh, probably 10.
Yeah.
I think close to 10.
Yeah.
And then we've also worked apart. But you spent some time in the sphere of the trading pits, which no longer are any. Are there any in existence anymore?
There's a few out there.
Okay.
Yeah, but not many, and not like it used to be.
Like not as raucous as it used to be.
No, it's very... I mean, it can be chaotic, but it's a bit more organized now.
Yeah. But it used to be very Wolf of Wall Street.
It had its moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had its moments.
So I want to know, like, we talked about this before, and I want to hear some of the stories, because I remember you used to tell me the stories when we were working together, and you were already on the like police side of the business where you were in compliance. But you had the best stories. So I hope you have like a few choice ones today.
I do. Carefully selected.
Carefully selected.
Yeah.
So
I mean, look, the good news about the business when you exchange floors, I believe back in the day it was very different. And when I say different, I mean different from today.
yeah.
I'd say there was a lot more fun. It was a very close relationship, even with people you were trading against. And I'd say that where there's stories for a specific exchange, I've been to other exchanges around the world, and the stories remain the same.
So the culture is pretty like synonymous, right?
Yes, and I think it's if you see one trader getting introduced to another trader, another exchange, it's almost like two soldiers meeting each other. Different armies, sure, but they can share. There's a familiarity between the two.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that applies pretty much any exchange anywhere in the world.
So then before we get into the battle stories, what would you say is what is the kind of the biggest cultural piece that now doesn't exist anymore?
The ability to make fun at ourselves and to make fun of other people within your group.
Okay.
Yeah. And nothing is malicious. There was never any malintent to take advantage of somebody's issues or handicaps that they may have in their personality, but it was more of a frat house type environment. And that's really what is the difference between then and today.
Okay. So if you think about all the stories, and I know you've got a few, what was the most like frat house like thing that you ever saw? I don't want to incriminate you or like put you in the picture. So either saw firsthand or heard from another trader, another exchange. Like, give me the like pinnacle of frat house stories.
The pinnacle, I'd say. Well, there's a lot, and I'm gonna have to distill the stories which probably should not be recanted. But the easiest one to bring that comes to mind is on many exchanges, it would be both Toronto, New York, and Montreal for sure. And I can only assume others. There was every Christmas, there seemed to be a tradition of racing lobsters on the floor. And I know I'm saying it like it's like, you go to the washroom, you come back, you get a coffee, and you race lobsters. So yes, it sounds maybe to the uninitiated as why would you do that? But in the heat of things, it made a lot of sense at the time to race lobsters.
Okay.
So if you can picture a trading floor environment where it's like a Christmas party, back when they used to have these grand Christmas parties.
So did they have the parties on the floor?
Yeah, they used to have it on the floor.
Okay.
For the traders.
Okay.
And it's a high stress environment, which sort of brings out a lot of type A individuals, and it's no secret that these type A individuals like to release stress.
Yeah.
And there's many different ways to release stress, which we can talk about later. But in this example, somebody had an idea to race lobsters on the floor. Now, you can imagine a world where you line up 4 lobsters and you have a finish line. And the idea is to get the lobster from one point to the other.
Okay, hold on a second. So you're at this, like this Christmas party's going on, and somebody has this idea.
Yep.
Is it premeditated or is it on the fly?
It would have to be premeditated because where do you get live lobsters?
Yeah, for sure.
So
like you're not calling like we're gonna bring you a bunch of lobsters.
So I would imagine at the time that these lobsters were part of the catering company that brought in live crab, lobsters, oysters, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and some clown.
So somebody had a great idea. Says, "Hey, don't cook those 4 lobsters or 5 lobsters. I need them for a moment." And instead of asking the obvious next question as to why you need them for a moment, well, okay, take them. And so people would start betting on which lobster would cross the finish line.
Okay. So somebody
pause there for a moment.
Somebody goes and gets these lobsters, right? Maybe like is it a few guys or it's just one guy shows up with a whole bunch of lobsters?
I mean, I can only speak to the exchanges that I know about, but it's typically one person who's like the ringmaster
of the lobster
of this idea.
Okay.
And then he may have some help carrying the lobster, sure. But it's really one person who initiated it.
And then you set up like lanes on the floor or what? How did that?
Well, you just pick a spot on the floor. You put the lobsters down and you just, you hope for the best. Now, you can imagine a bunch of grown men ready. Somebody like says, go.
Yeah.
And now they're screaming at these lobsters with the hopes that their voice would
like inspire them to go faster.
Yeah. And then back in the day where it was all cash, you can imagine in the back alleys of the 1940s, betting on dice.
Yeah.
With guys holding cash in their hands.
Yeah.
Now fast forward to the 80s and 90s. I'm a 90s like trader, but I heard these stories from the 80s. You would have these guys holding thick wads of cash in their hands.
Really?
Just changing back and forth bets on the fly, and then hoping that their lobster that they chose won. So that's really the premise behind it.
Okay. I have a lot of questions about this. So how many people participated in the betting? Like how big of a
50, 60?
Really?
Oh yeah, no, it was a lot.
And what was the take for the winning lobster?
You know what? So there's an old saying, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. I don't know what the take was, but I imagine hundreds, if not thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah, thousands for sure.
Yeah.
Like it's we're talking about a time where cash meant nothing to a group of people who made a lot of it. I mean, a lot of it back in the day. So spending $100 or investing $100 in a lobster is nothing to them. So if that $100 paid back $200 or $300, and I guess don't forget these are traders. So as the lobsters got closer to the finish line,
they're trading their bets,
right? Of course, it's a derivative on a derivative by the time we get to the end. So back to your original question about frat house type stories. To me, that's the one that. I mean, I will say that this story comes in line with the Salvation Army typically coming in with their band.
Yeah.
And everyone taking cash out of their pocket and giving. And it was all about giving.
Yeah.
So I know we can talk about the traders could be a little douchey back in the day. And for that matter.
They can be special characters. They were special characters.
So, but let's not forget the fact that they were on this lobster racing event was on the back of a Christmas party, giving to the Salvation Army a few alcoholic drinks.
Yeah. And
next thing you know, lobsters are on the floor racing on the exchange.
That's cool. And so I'm curious because like the one thing that, you're talking about how much cash there was, and I got to see, to be on the floor of the CME right before they closed it. So I got like a small taste of what it was like. And it was kind of quiet. It was a little bit sad, to be honest with you. But I heard so many stories about the wild swings in people's personal net worth, like on a day-to-day basis. So, and this is the kind of lore that, you wouldn't hear about anymore. I'm sure people are doing, they're trading at home or whatever, maybe on a screen, like at an investment bank or like capital markets desk. But this would have happened like in a group of people. Yep. Like, give me some crazy stories. I don't know if you can tell me numbers, but in terms of, ups and downs in a very short period of time.
I'd say so first of all, in my experience and the stories that I've heard, there have been very few, believe it or not, very few casualties to speak of when you look at the grand population of traders.
So most people are able to kind of control the massive losses.
Yeah. So we're talking about days before real-time risk analytics. If you went offside for 10 seconds, in today's world, your risk department likely will give you a call within seconds.
Shut you down.
Or force you to cover, or at least ask some important questions. Back in those days, no one knew of the risk. I mean, when they say nobody outside of the trader actually taking on the risk.
So the trader was the only one who had any idea of
that's it.
What was on the line.
And then you really, the result, the success or failure of that day was pretty much determined on the next day when you see your P&L on what they say on the sheets. Back in the days where you actually had physical papers.
So when somebody's calculating it, like everything's settling, they're calculating it overnight.
You'd have your positions, you'd have your activity. You buy here, sell there, add it all up, and you see a big number at the bottom.
Okay.
And assuming that everything was inputted, we're talking about days where it was manual inputs on trades.
Yeah.
So back to my comment about very few casualties, I think a lot of these traders really handled their risk professionally.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think everyone sort of appreciated the fact that it takes just a brief moment in time to get too risky. So everyone tried their best to not do that, right? So if you looked at, for every 100 traders on the floor that I could name over the years, I'd say one or two maybe were a casualty of discipline issues, not following the risk. But on any given day, there may be some swings.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can look at events in the markets that would have caused, there was like the crash, October crash, 87.
Yeah.
Which is funny because that was right around the time where the banks all decided to buy up all the different brokerage firms in Canada.
Yeah.
And like good timing on that, right? Obviously, fast forward 30, 40 years, it's worked out quite nicely for them. But you can imagine at that time, that may have been a decision to like sort of second guess when the market was down limit for like the first time in decades.
Yeah.
So we look at events in history, and like that would be one event. The referendum, for example, of in the 90s, I mean, to this day, I'd say is one of my busiest days I've ever experienced.
Okay, tell me about that. Like, what is that? What is a really busy day?
Well, the busy day really.
What does that mean?
It means that there's very little time to think. So you mostly, I think you just find yourself reacting more than thinking, which to somebody who's got some experience behind them, okay. But to somebody who's not used to that, so from my experience, I've seen many different stock symbols causing volatility crisis, if you will. You've heard about long-term capital management, the currency crisis before that, or in conjunction with that. And of course, you go into the referendum. What you just experience is a day's worth of volatility that would normally happen over a longer period of time.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And with that volatility, if you're not positioned right, you're going to experience big swings in your P&L.
Yeah.
And that's an example of how do you manage that from 9:30 in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon without any fancy risk platform to tell you in real time how your risk is to the trader, plus anybody overseeing that risk, it was unheard of back then.
So, I mean, that sounds like that concentrated volatility, like those moments that don't happen that often. Like it sounds like the most incredibly stressful thing. Like people must have had, like, I don't know, health issues or like anybody go on stress leave or like that kind of stuff. Like
It happens.
this was a time in history where mental health, like nobody talked, it just wasn't a thing. Like, it'd be like, don't complain, get back on the floor and keep trading. Like, don't be.
Yeah. I mean, we've all had our moments.
Yeah.
You know, personally, I could safely say that in your junior years, you keep making mistakes.
Yeah.
And how you learn from your mistakes is you get yelled at. And the more yelling that you absorb, you typically change your way
like,
of.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah. So wait a minute. I did that last time and I got yelled at. Therefore, I won't do it again. So, as a human being, though, to get berated all day long, I think it weighs on you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure I can't recall specifically at this moment, but I'm sure I've cried in the washroom stall a couple times, and just to sort of splash water on my face and go back to the floor and keep doing it.
So what? There's no HR making sure everybody.
HR. In those days, no. There was no HR. There were no IT departments. Risk was pretty much in its infancy.
Yeah.
Compliance wasn't even a thing yet.
Crazy.
But and to be quite honest, I don't think compliance. I mean, it was always a thing, but I think it sort of evolved over the years, pretty much on the back of the '90s. Like the '90s sort of. I think it was about time to start getting a formalized policing force to make sure that everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing and not what they're not supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But still, the floor itself, there was nobody on the floor other than the floor governor, like the governor person or the governor team. They were really for the purpose of orderly trading. So if anybody said, "Oh, he said this and or she said that," or then it would always be a floor governor's decision to say.
So they were like the referees.
They were, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Why don't let's try and spin up another story here, because I know you have a few. Is there one that fits kind of where we are, what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Or did we go? We went off on a bit of like a tangent, but
well, yeah. So I think the good thing to focus on is how everybody sort of got introduced into the market. Like there was a bit of a hazing ritual.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. I was going to say, because you talked about this idea that you get yelled at and you kind of make your mistakes. So like what is the initiation process to becoming a floor trader?
Well,
what did that look like at various exchanges?
Well,
not necessarily the one that you were at or were involved in the hazing.
Yeah. So I mean, when I say hazing, it's not that bad. It's more comedic. We'll get to in a second. But I think one of the bigger questions to ask, not just myself, but most people who were introduced to the 80s and 90s, is how you got into the market. Like, how did you find your way on the floor? How did you find your job?
Yeah, because it's not like there's postings for floor trader on the internet.
No, they're not. And they never were. It was basically based on who you knew.
Okay.
Right? And it was very informal, too. So I was brought in to meet my future boss the summer after high school.
Really?
Yeah. And it was through a friend of a friend.
Okay.
And they knew I was interested in the market. It was on the back of watching Wall Street, Oliver Stone's Wall Street and stuff. And so I am now this summer getting ready for university, and I meet my boss, shake of a hand. You bring this, how old are you? Like 19, I guess?
19, yeah.
And you bring this 19-year-old on the floor, and it's just wow, right?
Yeah.
And as luck would have it, I was too young. And he even said, you know what, maybe next year, but right now you're too young, and thanks anyways.
But they would have taken you at 20?
20, well, they did. So fast forward, yeah. So the job that I was trying to get was simply an input operator.
Okay.
The guy who, for the bank that I was going to work for, that I ended up working for later, would be to collect all the tickets from all the traders, some 10 minutes, 15-minute schedule or an hour, maybe if it's slow, and then input them all in accurately, hopefully. And then everything that was inputted would go into the risk systems and the P&L calculations overnight.
Yeah.
Which would feed the sheets, which would tell you the P&Ls the next day.
Okay, so let's just pause to get all the moving, like not in crazy amounts of detail, but let's get all the pieces, because there's the pit, right? So the pit is full of traders, and the traders are split into, you've got the guys that take on risk and the guys that are passing client orders.
Well, it's a bit of a mix, right?
Okay.
So in the market, you're either trading as principal or as agent. There's only one of two ways.
Yeah.
So you can either be representing a client, which you have a duty to get the best and fair price required for that client, or you trade for yourself, which would, if there's no client facilitation or no client order that's causing you to trade, you're trading basically buying low, selling high for yourself or for the bank.
Okay.
Which they call that proprietary trading.
Okay, cool.
So you're doing one of the other, and they're all just mixed in.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
so those are all the guys in the pit, and then outside the pit is order takers,
Yeah, so there's
brokers.
multiple pits. So typically on any given floor, you'll have the typical geography is, if you look at a box, inside the box is all the trading.
Yeah.
Outside of the box and on a staggered, like raised platform, are all what they call the booths or the clerks or the operators.
Okay.
And these are the guys who will take orders, flash orders. When I say flash, I mean send hand signals to the guys in the pit inside the square. And then as the activity happens, those guys will flash the fill back to the clerk. And then that's typically how you would have that interaction. It looks chaotic. It looks like none of it makes any sense. But you'd be surprised. Before the era of computers and tablets and wireless mics and hand signals were the way to go. But the whole point is somebody ultimately had to get that trade out of verbal confirmation into a system of sorts.
Yeah.
There was some level of formality at some point before that trade becomes real. So so in my case, I was trying to get that job for the bank in question. And like I said, I was too young. But fast forward a year later, the guy they ended up hiring instead of me did not do that great.
So this is one of the casualties.
Yeah. So it's not for everyone, the market in general, the high stress environment, et cetera. And I remember I was just finishing my first year of university and I got a phone call, still living with my parents. And my mom's like, hey, somebody's calling for you. And I'm, okay, hello. And hey, it's so-and-so, you were here a year ago. Like you remembered, you know what I mean? Oh, yeah, thank you very much. Are you still interested? I said, sure. I had totally written off this as an even option for me to even do. And he said, it was like, I don't know, over a weekend or a Friday. He says, can you start Monday? I said, sure. So, okay, just come down. So sure enough, I just stroll in Monday morning at like 8:30.
Whoa.
And summertime now. And sign in at security desk. He comes in, signs me in, gives me a badge, take a picture, and off you go. And that's really, like in today's world, there's so much vetting that happens.
Oh, yeah.
Before anybody gets hired. First of all, there's probably a short list of universities
that they'll hire from.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're not even at those universities, there's like a top 5 or top 10 list of individuals that would make the cut. I'm not sure I'd make the cut.
They're just calling up random guys.
Yeah. So
it's like, hey, you want a job?
If this happened today, I'm not sure I'd be working in the capital markets.
I'd be
at Starbucks somewhere.
Yeah. No chance.
So it was different back then, I think is the message. And not good or bad, it just was different.
So you show up, they sign you into security, and like what happens? How quickly are you in the lion's den?
Well, you're not. So right day one, you're only in the pit to get tickets off of a trader. And you're really this young, you're 20 years old, first day on the job, and you're trying to go up to a trader who's probably making $2 or $3 million a year, who's like when you're 20, a guy who's 35, 40 is like a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So you are going out to him. Hi, excuse me, sir. Nice to meet you. I'm the new guy. Can I get your tickets? And it gives you a wad of tickets like that. And you're like, what the hell is that? And one by one, you got to get these in the system accurately.
Yeah.
And he's one trader of like 12.
Wow.
Equally as busy in different trading pits, right? or different trading areas. So it is a job, we call it a phone clerk, or just a clerk, where it's considered an entry-level job. And ideally, you don't spend your whole life
as a clerk.
Yeah. Some do. I think some people are very happy with that. But you get your trading credentials along the way.
Okay.
So that you can trade client orders, so that you could help out if things get really, really busy. And I would say typically it's a 3 or 4 year career before you push yourself into one of those pits as a junior trader.
Okay.
And that's really how it sort of evolves.
So where is the baptism in this whole process? Like, is there, do they razz the clerks?
Yeah, they do actually. So that's the hazing, I guess. So in your first day, there's really two. I can't believe. So I'll give you the non-famous one first, and I'll give you the famous one second.
Okay.
So if you remember on the Toronto Stock Exchange floor, this is the one that was in First Canadian Place, not the one on Bay Street.
Okay.
But the one in First Canadian Place, and they may have done it to London Bay Street as well in the 80s, but the one on in the 70s. But the one in First Canadian Place, there were many instances where they would grab the new guy, which I was one of them. And at the end of the day, well, first of all, there were 8 posts, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 posts.
And that means 8 pits.
Well, yeah. 8, well, each post had many different areas.
Okay.
So each post would have, they call it like a square.
Okay.
In the equity side, they refer to more of a square, not so much a pit.
Okay.
In the futures and options is more of a pit.
Okay.
But anyways, it doesn't matter. It's just syntax. But if you look at the squares, or they're all connected basically to this big boat. They call it a boat, okay, or a post. And so the New York Stock Exchange, they're mostly like hexagons.
Yep.
In Toronto, they were more of a football.
Okay.
A giant football that if you had to put a number of people inside of it, you probably fit like 50 people inside of it. That's how big it was, okay?
Okay.
And the wood, you can imagine, the wood that was used to make these boats was probably imported from some forest somewhere in like California, who knows, redwood or something, and very, very heavy.
Okay.
And not designed in any way, shape, or form to be moved at any point.
Okay.
So now with that being said, the hazing ritual was, at the end of the day, as you may have seen in many, many different videos or documentaries, there's just paper everywhere on the floor.
Yeah.
And then the cleaning people, they come in and they sort of sweep up all the paper, and then they clean it that way. That's basic. I think they used to use rakes and put it all together in these big clear bags. And I mean, who knew what they were doing back in the 90s? There's no recycling back then.
And I just throw
Maybe
it.
they're
probably burning it on the roof.
Exactly. So the hazing ritual was to tell guys like me on my first day, at the end of every day, 4 o'clock, all the traders go home and all the clerks stay behind to do stuff. And you have to actually move the booths, because they're on wheels, so that the cleaning staff it's easier for them to clean it up.
Okay.
And so sure enough, at the end of the day, I go up to one of these big, probably weighs 5 tons.
Yeah.
Okay. Computer equipment on top. So here I am, a complete idiot, easily on a 30-degree angle, trying to push this post that's not moving. You can imagine trying to move a car.
Yeah.
Or a bus.
Yeah.
And I'm pushing it and pushing it. And I remember, and I'll throw a name here. I know I'm not going to use a name, but this name is okay to use. I heard somebody in the background say, "Push harder, kid." And I turn around and it's Freddie Ketchen.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Because Freddie Ketchen used to do, at the end of the day, he used to do live from the floor for like CTV or somebody. Yeah. And so the cameras were always there between like 4:15 and 4:30, and he would give a brief blurb of the market. And Freddie, I heard him, so I turned around. I didn't know who he was at the time, but now, I mean, obviously, fast forward a few years, I knew.
Yeah.
And then I just said, "Oh, if he says push harder, I should push harder." So I literally pushing harder. Now I'm like almost like on a 60-degree angle.
That's amazing.
Anyways, I kind of gave up when Freddie walked over and he said, "Have you figured it out yet?" And I go, "Figure out what? You're not moving these, kid. These are not going to be moved." And then I looked around and there was all these other clerks who had put in multiple years ahead of me, laughing, applauding, and me just really like, really, guys, like, really. So I think to the uninitiated, that may sound childish. But
That
you're
sounds
dealing,
actually pretty tame
Yeah.
for that time. But
yeah, you're dealing with a lot of kids or personalities of kids on the floor. So
Yeah.
that was one of them. But the one that I think everyone had experienced was asking for a box of quotes. So if I said to you, who knew nothing about the market, and it was probably your first day or second day on the job, and I said, go over to the governor booth, the floor governor, and say, I need a box of quotes. You got to get a box of quotes at 4:00 every day. Or actually, no, it wasn't at 4:00. It was during the day where everybody was watching. And I think it was around 3:00. 3:00. Oh, 3:00. Okay, kid, go get a box of quotes from the floor governor. And sure enough, okay, you do whatever they tell you to do, right? You got lunch already. You got coffees. You got all the tickets. You've been working like an animal all day.
Yeah.
So, okay, this is just part of the job. You go up and you say, excuse me, I'm here to ask for, I got to get a box of quotes. And then he just starts laughing. And, well, sorry, what did I say something wrong? And then the whole floor just, and we're talking about 40,000 square feet of space.
yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of traders laughing, applauding. So again, I think I said this in the beginning. It wasn't malintent. It wasn't to make you feel bad. It was just to introduce you to the club.
Yeah.
And really is what it was. And that's the box of quotes. I think pretty much everybody went through that hazing ritual, asking for a box of quotes. Some people actually made them go upstairs to the offices. So if you work for one of the banks, sure, you're on the stock exchange floor, but there was a lot of business that got conducted in the office. So it would force you to go up to the office, up to one of the big senior guys, knock on their door, and ask for a box of quotes. So I mean, it did extend outside of the floor, but that's really where it started.
I remember my first job. Like, I actually worked at a lumber store when I was, 15 or 16 years old.
Oh yeah.
And I remember it was this weird old converted curling arena that had been turned into a lumber store. So it was a bit of a labyrinth.
Right.
And they would send the new guys, they did this to me, they would send you to some room that didn't exist.
Yeah.
And keep giving you shit about not finding it. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's like a standard,
It's standard.
90s and earlier thing.
Yeah, like today, I think there's so many HR issues if you started doing stuff like that. I'm not sure there would be, and I'm sure some places are probably still fun to work at. It's just, it's more professional today. So now it's more about it's more about your knowledge, your acumen, your educational background, your ability to crunch numbers.
Yeah.
And less about your personality and how it interacts with a group of childish individuals.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like such an odd culture change.
It is.
But now what's happening is now AI can do so much of all of that stuff that I think we might shift back to personalities being more of a thing and culture being more of a thing.
It might. I do welcome it. I do think that some banks are worse than others, but I think in general there's been a nice hybrid of personality maintenance and we're allowing for personalities to shine, but still focusing on the Excel knowledge, the strategy knowledge.
Yeah.
But I think there is going to be a point, you're right, where if it's so AI focused and so robotic, then you lose a bit of the personality. And I think, we talked about this already, but that's really the difference between how it was and how it is today.
Yeah. For sure. We probably have time to try and squeeze in one last story. So,
Oh yeah.
and maybe more, but I'll set this up because having anybody who's worked in finance, for people who have never worked in it, it's sort of a weird thing. And usually everybody has a story when they meet someone and they tell them what they do to kind of, it's a peek behind the curtain. Like, what's your favorite story to tell when you were trading? Mm-hmm. What's the story you would tell people when they asked what you do and they asked like about it? What is that?
Yeah. So I think there's different ways to explain to somebody what actually goes on behind the curtain. And don't forget that back in those days, you did have, every exchange had a visitor gallery. And there were stories behind how we would tease the visitor gallery, but that's another podcast. But I think one of the best stories that I could probably focus on is a story that, I mean, the events of the story, the actual event took place before my time, but just slightly before my time. So I know it as it was sort of relayed to me, and relayed to others. So the stories I'm sure, has had multiple versions, and the original, those who may have been there, part of the story, may pick away at it and say, well, that didn't really happen. But I mean, that's not really that important.
Yeah.
What is important is that a group of millionaires would actually think about doing this to an individual. So just to get into it, look, the floor had, being a high stress environment, you had a lot of individuals who like to release steam, not just after work, like at a bar or at a restaurant, but also during the day. There'd be moments where you would see a couple guys playing putting, trying to putt something from one spot to another, trying to pretend to throw a basketball into a hoop, and no one questioned it. Mm-hmm. There was also, like we already talked about, a few practical joke moments, but in this case, we had an individual who had just started trading, who was unfortunately, he had a stuttering problem. Mm-hmm. And as anybody who knows about stuttering issues, the more anxious you get, or the more stressed out you become, your stuttering problem gets worse and worse and worse. If you're able to control it, which some are able to control it, you are the most successful at controlling it when you're calm and relaxed and everything is happening. So you can understand that in a trading environment, and especially the scenario I'm about to explain to you, having a stuttering problem would have been a really bad thing at that moment. So back in the day, where you had the ability to put on any symbol you want, which you would tell the operator, say ABC was a symbol in question, and you needed to put it on your screen. You just tell the inputter, put ABC, and then the data would flicker, the bid, ask, last, volume, etc.
So this is like the stock tickers or whatever
Well,
tickers
yeah,
that
every
you could
trading
see.
pit has like informational monitors.
So everything up there, like every quote for whatever
Right.
instrument or
Yeah.
stock or whatever is up on this.
Exactly. So
Okay.
I'm actually referring to a time that we still had chalkboards.
Okay.
Yeah. So the chalkboards allowed people to really put in any symbol they wanted. So they put a fake symbol. And in this case, the symbol they chose was FFF.
For this poor
Because
stuttering guy.
It was all in an effort to haze the stuttering person. And they named up some fake company called First Federal Financial.
Okay.
And so sure enough, a bunch of traders put up FFF, and they were in coordination with the guys in the upstairs. So when we say upstairs, downstairs, that reference was downstairs meant the exchange floor, upstairs meant the offices.
Like
right?
banking.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
capital markets.
So we'd see like a trading desk today that are in the offices. We've always had trading desks upstairs, say as upstairs, but they would interact with the downstairs. So if I were sitting on the 30th floor of like the Sun Life building, for example, or First Canadian Place, I would just pick up the phone. I'd probably have like a speed dial, goes right to the floor, and I'd have an immediate conversation with a floor trader.
Okay.
So this person was in charge of the phones, and the phone went off. And apparently, the guy upstairs, who again was coordinating with the guys on the exchange, the traders who were in on this,
Premeditated by a group.
100%. And he picked up the phone and says, "Yeah, what's going on? Yeah, I got an order for you. Okay, what's the order?" And as he's taking the order, the guys knew, the traders on the floor knew his order was going to be to buy 1 million shares of FFF.
So this guy calls down.
Yep.
He's colluding with everybody else.
Yep.
He calls down to this guy.
Fake order.
This fake
Yeah.
order to this guy with the stutter.
Yeah, fake order on a
For
fake symbol.
for
buy
1 million shares of FFF.
Market order. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and right away, that order in itself would cause anybody to sort of,
Be like, "Well,
their
that's-
heartbeat would go up a bit. And as he's taking the order, the area that he's going to be trading it, the square or the pit, it was getting really, really busy. Why was it getting busy? Well, because everybody who was in on this, they needed to create this fake demand of the stocks either being taken over or whatever.
Something's going on.
So they're screaming at each other in a fake way, and the symbol FFF is being traded fake, and the stock's going, let's pretend that it's a $10 stock, 11, 12, 15, 20 bucks, 21. It's just going out of control.
Yeah.
And by the time he's done writing up the ticket, he hangs up the phone, he runs in the square, but because there's so much activity, he's got a huge order that he knows will have an impact on the market. He's really nervous. And the more nervous he was or is, he's trying to, you have to yell the symbol in a clear, audible voice. So he's trying to say F, F, F. And he comes out saying F, F. He couldn't say it. And finally, it took him probably a whole minute to finally just say the symbol. And then finally, the pit or the group turns to him and says, what do you have? And he yells, he says, I got $1 million. He's stuttering the whole time. And he's got $1 million to buy. And they give him a price that's so $30 maybe. I don't know what it was. And he just takes it because he's so junior. He doesn't know really how to stick handle an order, they say.
Yeah.
As they say. And they give him a fill. He's proud of himself. He just bought 1 million shares, probably double the price.
Done.
Double the price it was 10 minutes ago, but still he's done.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone still is in on it. Okay, totally fake. So all the tickets they're writing up are meaningless. They're handing it to the input operator who's pretending to like type away something. There's nothing actually being inputted because it's a fake symbol. He then goes back to the phones to call the guy upstairs. And he says, "Okay, yeah, you bought $1 million at $30." And again, the crowd is sort of looking side-eyed at his reaction.
Yeah.
And then the guy on the phone says something like, "You idiot, it's not a buy order, it's a sell order." Now, they know what is happening. So at the same moment as he's just realizing he's now offside with an error,
Yeah.
they're selling the stock back down to $10 because the fake rumor that was out apparently was not a thing. And that whole rally that just happened, what he just paid the top on, is now reversing. And now he's got to not only sell stock, but he's got to sell the stock that he bought. It's all fake stock.
Yeah, at a massive loss.
So a massive loss. Like
So
a
he
career,
thinks he's bought-
his career is over, right?
God, this poor guy.
And then so now his stuttering is off the charts. And then he sees the pit, and it's just 20, 19, 18, 17. He's not even in the pit yet. So finally he runs back down, and of course he's he can't. And so the guy looks at him and says, "What do you want to do?" It says, I have an error. I said, "Where? You have an error? Oh, that's going to cost you, kid. That's going to cost you a lot." And then the whole crowd just finally stopped, and this guy was beside himself, all to just start laughing, applauding, and making him realize that it's a joke. Don't worry about it. Even the guy upstairs was in on it. It was epic at the time. But the message was, welcome to the club. You're now one of us. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. So that's really part of the club, if you will. And I'm sure that story is easily replicated across other exchanges. Similar stories have been told through like just passing on of information from senior trader to junior trader. So it's a very big part of the mentorship is not just teaching what to do, how to do, but it's also how to be part of the club.
Yeah,
which is
culture.
Culture.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Man, wild times. That would never, ever fly.
You couldn't do it today. How do I even put up a fake symbol today? You can't even do it.
You couldn't. Wow. Crazy how much the world has changed in that period of time.
Yeah, it has. I mean, has it changed for the better? I would argue it's better for the investor. It's better for the market. The market is way more efficient today. Is it still potentially, can a black swan event still happen? Yes. Right? We see it from time to time. I think the last big one, obviously the crisis in 2008, but I believe if we look at some flash crashes that happened along the way, without the proper governance needed to ensure those flash crashes would never occur, I think we learned from our mistakes. So the way we are sort of set up today in the environment that we're all in the capital market structure, I think we're in a better spot today. Notwithstanding, the stories back in the old days are way better to tell and will never be part of today's world ever again.
Well, at least we have the stories.
Well, yeah, the stories are, and it's good to sort of share those stories from time to time.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude.